Coach?
Hey, what's up, Sully? How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for taking a few minutes. We're
you got it, man.
Previewing a couple divisions each week for the West Jersey Football League, and this week we're diving into the Independents, which you guys won last year and on your way to the second straight appearance in the South Jersey Group 2 championship game. Little different look for you guys this year. You graduated a bunch of outstanding seniors who had been really the rock of your program for several years there. We're talking about guys like Bo Melton, Jesse Milza, Owen Bowles, Pat Moran. So a whole group of guys, great seniors that really took you guys to the next level. How difficult is it to make the switch from when you lose a big group of seniors like that have been so important? Obviously, the guys coming up now know what the standard is, so I'm sure there's not too much in terms of motivation, but you still have to figure out a lot of X's and O's, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll find out. I mean, we went through it a few years ago. We've, over the past several years, every year we've had a couple of guys that were pretty good, whether it was going back with Damon Mitchell and Caleb Graves and Nolan Seward, some of those guys in that first class, Gary Melton, guys having to step up and replace. We were lucky. We had with losing Amir Mitchell, we had Bo and those guys that were kind of ready. This is the first time we've been in a situation where I think we've lost guys that were – another one you could throw into the list that you said is Isaiah Watson.
Oh, sure, no doubt.
So really you're talking about 5 guys that played, significant time. I think just about all of them except for Watson maybe was a 4-year starter. So it's I think it's motivation. Our kids get that. Obviously they know that they're going to have a lot to prove with those guys, being gone. And especially I think the big thing is the experience we had at quarterback is going to be tough. And then I think the big playability that Bo Melton had is going to be tough. So our guys are ready. I mean, that's the awesome thing about the beginning of football season and about seeing how the seasons unfold is just sort of who steps up and who ends up being a player for you and what guys are ready to step up. It's great to see those things.
Now, Coach, when you have a young quarterback, how much is it trying to tailor the offense to that quarterback's particular talents, whoever it might be, or how much of it is, okay, this is kind of our system and let's learn how to make it efficient and run well?
Well, this year I think we had planned on going to more of a dual threat look at quarterback, doing a little bit more RPO stuff. We kind of stayed away from that a little bit because that wasn't necessarily Jesse's strength. Jesse could run a little bit, but he was more of a pocket guy. So his backup has always been a young man named Nas Chapman, who happens to be probably our best returner at receiver. He had a great year for us last year in Amir Mitchell's absence, and when Bo was getting all the attention, Nas kind of stepped up. But Nas really, for his first 2 years, was a backup quarterback. So we knew that we would have a dual threat type of guy. We ended up having a transfer, a young man by the name of Chris Snuffer. That's a senior. That's a transfer from Maple Shade, and then we have an upcoming sophomore by the name of Louis Barrios, and those two are kind of competing. Now, Louis and Chris are both in a situation where they're going to be expected to be more dual threat type of guys because that's kind of the direction we want to go in. So it's not a deal where we're expecting guys to get back there and do everything that Jesse did. So it's going to be a little bit of a different transition for him. But nonetheless, it's one where I think they know that they're going to have to, step their game up a little bit. With Jesse, his first year, probably 2, it was really just about managing the game, and we had some studs, and he just kind of had to, we ran a ton of the drag dig series where he could just kind of give it to those guys on drags and let them do their magic. And then as he progressed and as his reads got better, he was really able to expand his game and make his reads all over the field. So whatever it is, whether we're primarily a dual threat team with a guy that can run, or if we feel like, our guy can throw a little bit this year, we'll adjust it to him. And that's our philosophy, I think, overall, offensively and defensively, is kind of, have an identity, but try to play to your strengths.
We'll talk with head coach Tim Watson of Cedar Creek High School football team. And, Coach, what's the biggest challenge for you now as you graduate a 4-year starter at quarterback? A lot of teams are in your same situation. Oakcrest, Ocean City. There was a couple of schools in this area that had really solid 4-year quarterbacks. And it's a whole different ballgame when you're throwing somebody in there that's never really had a ton of varsity reps. That can be a little bit intimidating for a high school kid. Okay, September 8th, guess what? Friday Night Lights, you're in there, buddy.
Yeah. I think first thing for me, I'm more of a defensive guy. It's just get your defense ready to go so that those guys don't feel that pressure. Give them time to sort of blossom and come into their own. And we feel pretty confident that we should be able to play some pretty tough defense. We lose some good players on defense as well, but we have some guys that have a little bit of experience. And then we have, I think about seven starters that are returning on defense. And the other spots, those guys played, had significant time last year. So we feel like we can get those guys ready to go. If we can do that on defense, it will, or at least, give our guys, our offense, a chance to sort of grow and develop as the season goes on. That would be great. So that's the first thing I would say is be ready to play some tough defense. And then it's just really a deal where, every day kind of matters. And whether it's your scrimmages or whether it's, any of your preseason practices, it's going to be a deal where guys are taking every opportunity to get better and kind of soaking it up. And we got to do a great job on defense as well, giving those guys a good look on scout teams. It's when you're dealing with inexperience, every practice is kind of vital. And it's practice is king is one of the things that we'll say sometimes when it comes to that. So if you can get after it in practice, it's really gonna help you on Friday nights or Saturday afternoons.
Coach, you mentioned defense, and one of the guys I've really liked watching last year is one of your linebackers, Mike Gulig. Talk about him a little bit and what he's meant to that defense. He's the kind of kid where he's not going to say a whole lot, but, man, this is a kid you want right there in the middle of your defense, making hits and sort of just set the tone in practice every day.
Yeah, Mike is definitely, a key returner for us on defense. And when you have a middle linebacker that ran the show last year coming back, that makes you feel good. So that's one of the things that we feel pretty confident about our defense. A guy like him, he's just a tough dude, and he's just, he's been chomping at the bit for this season. One of the texts he said he's just ready to rip somebody's head off, and that's kind of the way he is. We'll do the 7-on-7 stuff and all that stuff, but he
wants to hit somebody.
He wants to hit somebody. So he's every bit a linebacker, and it's great having him back. We actually have two inside guys returning. Him and Isaiah Campbell were inside guys for the better part of last year. So that's nice. So having linebackers that have experience, especially somebody like Mike that played a little bit as a sophomore for us as well, and really just, we're excited because he really just stepped up last year.
He had a great year last year. I remember watching him in a couple games, and I was like, man, this kid is all over the field making big hits.
Yep, he did. And not that we weren't expecting it. You never know, especially as an underclassman. You never know if they're going to completely live up to what your expectations are. But I want to say he did, and he probably even exceeded them a little bit with just his productivity. But he's a very smart kid. He's great in the classroom, and that translates over to the field. And we can kind of give him assignments, or we can install new stuff, and Mike's going to pick it up pretty quickly and be able to sort of pass that information along to the rest of the defense. So that's huge for us.
He kind of reminds me a little bit, Coach, of Dean Kolinich over at the Prep last year, a guy who had a pretty good junior year, was really coming along, and then senior year just became kind of that all-South Jersey type of middle linebacker and team leader. And, I think Mike could really follow in that kind of mold.
That's good stuff. We hope so. I think so, too. I think last year did a tremendous amount for his confidence. So this year I think he knows that he's a pretty good high school football player, and I think he's ready to take it to the next level. Then you kind of add in the aggression and the physicality that he brings, and that's really what makes a linebacker a great linebacker. Like, he has the brains, but it's that extra little edge, that extra little nastiness when they show up to make a play, and Mike does that. And that's not really something that you can coach. You either kind of a lot of guys can run around and make tackles. Mike has that mean streak in him, where he'll kind of set the tone and kind of bring a vibe to our defense that we like. So yeah, I think he's poised to have a great year, and we're excited to see that. It's always great to have guys like that have a good amount of experience from their junior year or sophomore year, their senior year, because you kind of relish that last opportunity to coach them and see how far they can take their game.
Coach, real quick before we let you go, are you going to offer Jim Cooper a little bit of a bonus this year? Find you a solid kicker?
He's already been working on one for us.
Okay. I mean, Pat Moran was really probably the best kicker, along with Kate Antonucci in South Jersey last year. And a lot of times we don't really talk too much about the kicking game, but he really came up big for you in so many games throughout his career and was just an outstanding kid and a great kid to have in the locker room. So it's you don't always say a kicker is going to be a tough guy to replace, but in this case, it's certainly true.
Yeah, no, Pat is man, what a career he had. Just some big time game winners for us, and as the years went on, really just expanded his game. That was the best thing about Pat. I mean, you hear about quarterbacks and receivers and linebackers or whatever the position, evolving their game and getting better and finding weaknesses in their game. Pat went from more of a place kicker as a freshman. He did kickoffs and all that stuff, but really evolved, got with Coach Cooper and really traveled and met with different type of people, went to different camps all over the East Coast and really throughout the country and tried to improve his game every single year. And you saw him being a place kicker, everything he kind of worked on, and it paid off. Like, the thing that I always said about Pat is one of the hardest workers we've ever had at Cedar Creek, and this happens to be a kicker. He's a football player, so he kind of took that mentality to the kicking position. But yeah, that's gonna be really tough to replace. The interesting thing, a little side story we have, is there's a young man named Clay Ollie who was a soccer player for 3 years, and I actually had him as a freshman. And I remember he sort of flirted with the idea of playing, and he's kind of been. There's always been, a few kids saying, hey, I think Clay's going to play. This year he decided to play, and actually last spring he started working with Coach Cooper. And I think Coop's pretty high on him. He's got a pretty big leg, and we're not going to start throwing Pat Moran comparisons out there, but we're hoping that he can get out there and be the best of Clay that he can be, and hopefully that's good enough to help us win some football games and make some plays for us down the road.
Great stuff as always, Coach. We're up against the break. Got to let you go, but we appreciate the time and good luck this season.
Well, thank you, guys. Good luck this season to you guys, too.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you. See you.
That's Coach Tim Watson of the Cedar Creek Pirates.